So hello and welcome everybody to the Careers Beyond Academia series, which is hosted by Stem Cell Network and Medicine by Design. My name is Sonam Dubey, and I'm the Scientific Manager with Medicine by Design. As you know, the goal with this series is to expose as many trainees as possible to the different job roles that are available after a degree in the life sciences, and to start to understand the qualifications and experience necessary to secure that role. Both the organizations have teamed up to host this series, which has already highlighted a wide variety of careers available after a degree in the life sciences. And you can check these out, the previous sessions, on the Stem Cell Network's YouTube channel, which are posted, and including this one, it will also be posted to the YouTube channel after today. We also have several other training events that occur monthly, so please check out both Stem Cell Network and Medicine by Design's websites. There are a lot of training opportunities that we offer throughout the year. Now, some housekeeping rules I would like to go over. So the session today is being recorded. It will be stopped after the second speaker has finished with their slide deck. And so prior to the Q&A, there will be no recording. And so you are welcome to ask your questions either live, or you can put it in the Q&A box. Both the speakers will have around 10 to 12 minutes to speak, and they will go present their slides one after the other. And we will reserve the Q&A to after the second speaker has spoken. So feel free to put in your questions in the Q&A box, and we will take those up during our Q&A session. And with that, I would like to now introduce our first speaker. So thank you, Ahmed Tanashi, for speaking today for our series. Ahmed is a business development advisor at Mitacs. He works with colleges and universities across Ontario by providing insight into Mitacs programs and funding opportunities, along with supporting the development of collaborative projects between academic institutions and partner organizations. Welcome, Ahmed, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for the introduction. I will just quickly share my screen. So that should be the presentation view. Looks good. Beautiful.
Yes.
Awesome. Once again, thank you for having me. Happy to talk about my role and kind of my journey here, as well as kind of relevance to the trainees on the call today. So as you know, my current position is a business development advisor at Mitacs, or Mitacs Inc. The degree and credentials I have from my past are a bit different from what you might see in a typical presentation here. I have a certificate in environmental management from the U of T Continuing Studies. I also did my master's and my bachelor degree in engineering at Western University, one in mechanical, one in biomedical. So again, getting more towards that life sciences slant from my education. With that, my career timeline was that I did a bachelor with an internship at Western University from 2012 to 2017. This was a industrial internship, so it was a 1 year that I took to kind of complete a 5-year undergrad, and this was in kind of more of the manufacturing setting with a company. And then in my master's, I actually looked at finger motion and finger kinematics, specifically with respect to arthritic and healthy joints performing activities of daily living. So getting more into that medical or life sciences side as well. Shortly after my master's, I then transitioned into being a mechanical designer at 7D Surgical. This is a surgical device company who basically sells a machine vision image-guided surgery solution for cranial and spinal surgeries. So I was working on device design for surgeons to use in operations on these delicate pieces of the body. The spine and the brain are, pretty delicate. So we want to make sure we know where our tools are at all times, so to speak. So that was a lot of my role there, was doing the design and verification for medical tools. Concurrently, I guess towards the tail end of the 7D Surgical and the start of my Mitacs career, I completed an environmental management certificate, the U of T Continuing Studies. Now, this was evenings or weekends, primarily course-based. A lot of really useful information I gathered from that. And this was more of a personal passion to pursue. So I like to learn a lot about a lot of different things. So this was something I kind of took on in my own time to kind of upskill myself in that area. And then finally, of course, I'm working at Mitacs right now, and I have been for the last 2 years. And we'll talk more about that role in detail right now. So as a quick glance, the typical background is a graduate degree from literally any discipline. So the nice thing about Mitacs is we're discipline agnostic. We have people from life sciences, engineering, the social sciences. We have advisors like myself from all kind of backgrounds and degrees, which is really, really cool to be working on a team like that, especially when many of them have PhDs or masters. It leads to some really interesting conversations. The salary range is between $70,000 to $100,000 a year, if I had to ballpark it for you. And so business development advisor might not be a very clear title that would tell you a lot about the role itself. So what I do in a sentence is really, I help identify and support collaborative research initiatives that are primarily completed through student internships, through helping with access to our funding, to Mitacs funding. So that is in general what I do in a sentence. A lot of the skills I use daily, if not hourly, are oral and written communication skills. I do a lot of presentations, get on a lot of calls, send a lot of emails as well. Attention to detail is a skill I think it's highlighted a lot, but especially in this role where I'm actually looking at a lot of applications before they get submitted for funding. Having that attention to detail is how I can, help serve my clients better, the academic and industry ones. And then a general understanding of research is really useful. So that's where the graduate degree comes in, where the typical background is. Knowing generally what research looks like, what, grant writing looks like, what methodologies, what these things look like in general is very, very useful when it comes to helping guide people in completing their applications to Mitacs. And then finally, conflict management, because we deal with so many different timelines, it's really important to make sure you let people know upfront as much as possible where, deadlines are, how much time it takes for review, things like that. And then managing those relationships as well on an ongoing basis is a really, really useful skill to have. So beyond that, some other careers I considered, funny enough, I considered being a family doctor. I considered doing my Bachelor of Engineering with, there was a fast track at Western at one point where you could like skip a year of your engineering, basically condense it down into 3 and then go right into the medical stream with the medical school there. I thought of being a pharmacist before. This was more in high school, I think, when I was thinking about that. And then of course, engineer, which obviously I did a bit of research in, but now I'm in a bit of a different world. I still deal a lot with engineers with our applications, but not so much formally practicing that. So the typical activities, I've already kind of hinted at that, talking about the skills, but really I've highlighted in bold there. It's really about identifying these academic and industry collaborations and then supporting the development of those projects for, supporting student engagement and internships on them. So it's really nice that I get to help with, paid student internships and help give funding to these really cool collaborative projects. A lot of what I do is connecting researchers with industry and vice versa, industry to research. I think you'd be surprised how many industry partners don't necessarily know what institutions to come to for the expertise they need. And of course, it's always good to know researchers and their research priorities, because then I can bring them to industry partners I know about and say, hey, your interests align. This industry partner is looking at doing something, some research or development in an area you're an expert in, why don't you have a chat and see if there's a potential for, a project to come out of it. I do a lot of helping applicants with their next steps. So there's a whole application process, and depending on the applicants, they might be very familiar or they've never seen Mitacs before. So a lot of it is my own understanding of our funding offerings and making sure that I can guide people through it in a way that's not painful or awkward or clunky for them, really ensuring there's like a smooth application process that I can help assist with. I support all manner of inquiries. I have undergrad students reach out to me with questions. I have, heads of applied research centers at universities and colleges reach out to me with their questions about our programs. And they can range from anything from, I don't even know what Mitacs is, can you help me? To, I have a project, we're going to do a $1.5 million project with this big company. Here's our application draft. Can you review it? And I get everything in between. So it's a really dynamic kind of support role that I play. I, of course, recommend ways to implement Mitacs strategically because I'm kind of a Mitacs expert. I help students, profs, and industry partners kind of understand the Mitacs model, where it fits, and also suggest kind of strategic implementation where they might be looking at only one project right now, but considering, hey, have you considered this as a way for you to, potentially vet students before they graduate as potential for, employing them later on to kind of bolster Canada's innovation kind of sector. So that's always really cool when I can get those strategies implemented. And then, of course, reviewing and advising application drafts. I don't do a technical review, I would say. I'm not an expert in every single research field in the world. Wish I could say I am, but I'm definitely not. So I do a free review before they submit to make sure everything is in order, also making sure they've provided enough detail. That's where that kind of research background comes into play, where I can understand, the research, there's methodologies, there's objectives. It's clearly laid out in kind of a research proposal to make sure that when it goes out for review, it's more likely to get approved. And applicants really appreciate that pre-review, because I don't know of too many other funding organizations like NSERC or SHRC that provide that kind of service prior to submitting the application. So with that said, why is my role important? Research needs funding. It's pretty self-explanatory on that sense. Research needs funding. It's important to fund research and innovation. I don't need to go too much more into detail on that, I hope. Why I enjoy my role is I really get a bird's eye view of the academic landscape, which is really interesting because I can see what kind of collaborations and topics different researchers in different industry are a part of and what kind of research they're doing in them. So it helps me stay really connected in the research landscape without being a researcher myself. I don't think I would be able to do a PhD personally, and because it takes a lot of dedication to a specific topic. So I'd much rather be able to support the people who want to do that. And it's very, very rewarding to see all these collaborations come to pass. And then I have, of course, a big part of it is supporting paid internships for students. I really appreciate being able to, say, hey, we do paid internships. That's non-negotiable at Mitacs. It has to be the student getting paid regardless. So that's really, really nice to be able to do that. And then finally, I have a lot of individual agency over who and what organizations I do outreach to within Mitacs, which I'm very thankful for. I have a lot of flexibility in kind of putting together my own plan for outreach and utilizing my existing network, as well as expanding my network in areas that I'm interested in. Some challenges are that there are deadlines, even though a lot of our funding is apply anytime. There are deadlines that partners impose. There's deadlines that academic institutions have. So there are challenges with managing those deadlines and making sure everyone's aware of them, especially when they're trying to collaborate on a project. And then I would say stakeholder management and coordination of these different moving parts. And as well, making sure that on the Mitacs side, we have everything in order to make sure that everything moves smoothly on our end, and we kind of meet those expectations that the partners expect once they've submitted an application. Really quickly, future career trajectory. There is a senior role above my own role as advisor. So there's a senior advisor role. There's also an account manager role, which is much more industry facing than it is academic. And then there's like regional directors, team leads, and things like that that you can grow into from this role as well. Career planning advice, I wanted to keep it short and sweet. If you're interested in stuff like this, take any informal or formal communication engagements you can have. It's always good to get presentation experience regardless of the audience, and even honestly, great to try to find a diverse number of opportunities with different audiences. Talking to students, talking to the public, talking to, researchers and experts in your field. Networking at industry and research events. That shouldn't come as a surprise. Networking is a pretty important step in a lot of careers, but especially talking to not only there are booths set up, but also people that are roaming around that you notice are part of an industry partner or are at a certain company. Feel free to strike up a conversation with them as well. Learn what they do, learn maybe where you might fit in with what they do. I would say on soft skills and other skills side, task prioritization is a big thing. Know when something is important, how important it is, and how to triage that. A lot of times we'll have a lot of different requests. So making sure that you know what is critical to get done today versus what can go till tomorrow is very important. And for this role, again, a lot of presentations, a lot of emails, a lot of talking to people. So you've got to enjoy that kind of thing. If you don't, maybe a different role, maybe not necessarily as an advisor at Mitacs. There are some other interesting roles in like grants and research and policy. But as a business development advisor, we're doing a lot of talking to a lot of people. That's all for me. I wanted to keep it short and sweet because I knew I would talk a lot about the slides. So thank you for listening. And I've included this for later on, but the contact info should be available afterwards as well. Thank you.
Fantastic, Emma. Thank you so much for that. Really great points in there, and I'm sure we'll have some discussion on your career path and advice on you know, if anybody wants to get into this role. So, but we will hold the questions till the Q&A as mentioned. We will now go to our next speaker. So we welcome Elisa Porfilio. Elisa is an engagement leader at Shift Health, where she joined in 2022. Prior to joining Shift Health, she spent 6 years at KPMG, where she provided management consulting services in the healthcare and life sciences and public sector practices. So welcome, Elisa. We look forward to hearing from you. So I can see
so much. Thanks so much, Sonam. And you can see my screen, okay? Thank you so much, everyone, for inviting me to be here today. I'm really excited to present this presentation and then answer all of your questions about management consulting. So as Sonam introduced at the beginning, I'm currently an engagement leader. The company I work for is called Shift Health. We're a boutique consulting firm. We focus specifically on the life sciences. So the advanced degrees in masters and PhDs in life sciences are critically important to the firm that I work with today. My degrees and credentials, I have a Bachelor of Health Sciences from McMaster University, and then I did do a PhD in immunology at University of Toronto before moving into consulting. So if we take a little look at my career trajectory, as I mentioned, I graduated from McMaster in 2010 with my Bachelor of Health Sciences degree. At that time, of course, I was thinking of becoming a medical doctor and then applying to grad school at the same time. And ultimately, the stars aligned and led me to U of T. I got accepted into all the grad school programs that I had applied to, a couple of scholarships. And so that was the obvious next step for me. I did my PhD between 2010 and 2016. My focus was on migration of plasma cells and specifically how the gut environment really impacts how these cells respond and react in different disease scenarios. And importantly, during my grad school days, and what I thought might be helpful for this group, is I started to dabble in consulting pretty early on. In about the second year of my graduate program, I realized I probably wasn't going to stay at the bench forever. So what else could I be exploring to prepare me for a career? Some important things that I engaged in are the Rotman Healthcare Consulting course. I think something that a lot of grad students maybe don't know is that when you're part of a university, you can take courses at no additional cost in other areas of the university. So I was able to take a Rotman class once as a student. I was one of 4 PhDs in that class, and then I TA'd it for 2 years after that to just really be involved in that healthcare consulting space. I also engaged with the Graduate Management Consulting Association. I was part of their leadership team for 2 years, first as a director of communication and then later as the vice president. I was co-president of our Immunology Association, and I engaged with the volunteer consulting group to try to get my feet wet in consulting and really understand what it was about and if it was a career that I was going to enjoy. I did some independent consulting by working through my networks and that of my parents just to see if there was any kind of analyst work or things that I could do, again, to just really expose myself to the business side of things. And then I also did an internship at Deloitte, all while doing my PhD. All of this really set me up for a career. Then I met a couple of people from KPMG while I was doing that Rotman Healthcare Consulting course, and that set me up to be hired as a senior consultant at KPMG. As mentioned at the top, I've worked in healthcare, life sciences, and public sector. So I've done program reviews of government-funded programs. I've done strategies for hospitals, program implementation at the hospital level, and then more currently in my current role is I'm focusing a lot more on research and life sciences. And again, still a lot of that strategic planning and providing advice. And so what you see towards the right side of the screen is I started as a senior consultant in 2016, was promoted in 2019 at KPMG, and then moved to Shift Health in the summer of 2022. So in terms of my role and the level of expertise, when you're thinking about sort of mid-senior level, which is where I am now in my consulting career, you're looking generally at 5+ years of previous consulting experience to be able to get into this role, or some equivalent if you're in an industry role. As I mentioned, at Shift Health, we exclusively hire those with master's or PhD students. So an advanced life sciences degree is critical for Shift Health. Not necessarily required if you're looking more broadly at consulting at some other firms. An MBA is always an asset, but not required. There is a lot of that learning of the business side of things that you're going to do on the job once you get into this field. The potential salary range, I've tried to chunk it up into the different levels that you'll be able to see. So at an entry level, you're likely looking at something between 75 and 100K at that consultant, senior consultant level. Once you reach the mid-senior management level, you're looking at 120 to maybe 170 plus. You can see that the ranges really start to spread as you get more senior in the role, because it really depends on your experience, your networks, how much you'll be able to bring to the firm. And then once you're at that executive level, so think partners and principals, really the world is what you make it. So if you're really ambitious and you bring in a lot of projects, you can expect a really much higher salary and bigger bonus. So I haven't put a specific number there because it really depends on your own personal drive. So what do I do in a sentence in management consulting? At my current level, a big part of it is leading the direction of projects while at the same time mentoring my team and managing those client relationships. And that's for both existing projects right now that I'm delivering, and also navigating new relationships to bring in new opportunities to the firm. Some key skills here that I think will be very in line with what a lot of the grad students have: being analytical. So being able to look at a problem, break it down into its component parts, think of a hypothesis of what you think the answer is, and then a plan to how you're going to solve that problem is all part and parcel to what we do in consulting. There are so many phrases about how you can't boil the ocean, you need to use the 80-20 rule, and really that comes down to you need to have a direction for where you're going and how you're going to help your client solve some of their really complex problems. Another thing is being strategic. So really being able to look ahead and think about, how can I take all of these different data points, bring them together in a way that's meaningful and get us toward the client's ultimate goal. So being able to do that strategic thinking is critically important. I think similar to what Ahmed was saying in a lot of his roles, being personable, being able to talk to people. At the end of the day, your clients really need to trust you if they're going to trust the advice that you're giving them. So coming off as someone who understands their work, cares about their success, is all really important to this field. The next one that I've put here is being development focused. I look at this from two lenses. One of them is personal development. So given that no two clients are the same and no two problems are the same, you're constantly learning, and you have to have that drive to want to be learning all of the time. But as you move up in the chain, really there's also development of your team. So what does my team need to be successful? Where are some things that I need to help mentor them so that they can be better at their jobs, is also part and parcel with what we do in consulting. Next, you have project management. Everything we do is project-based for our clients. So being able to understand how to initiate, take it through to the end, drive that project forward is important. Some people get PMP or the Project Management Institute certificates. It's, again, not critical. It might be helpful to you just to help you understand project dynamics. As you move up, so we are a boutique consulting firm. So part of my job is also operations and just understanding how consulting operations work. How can I make sure that my teams are efficiently delivering very high caliber work for our clients? And finally, leadership, setting that direction, making decisions, and working with the team to really deliver quality work for our clients. Some other careers I considered, I'm sure it's not surprising, but as a grad student, of course, I delved into, would I be a principal investigator or a professor? I think ultimately what resonated for me is that I really like to solve problems. I like to solve them at pace. And that's what led me into consulting rather than continuing in my academic career. And of course, coming from a Bachelor of Health Sciences program, I also certainly considered becoming a medical doctor. I think unlike Ahmed, I was thinking more obstetrics or pediatrics, but ultimately grad school was calling me and it was the right choice for me. So some typical activities in my day: a lot of my job is developing frameworks and structuring deliverables. So as I mentioned at the top, what problem is the client trying to solve? What's the framework that we can use to really break this down and think about this problem from different perspectives? And then what does that final report look like that's going to bring value to the client and help them make decisions that they need to make? At my level, I'm leading the strategic direction of the project. And so what that means is if there's a new drug that's released, how does that impact the drug that my client is thinking about bringing to market? And being able to pivot and set that direction is always top of mind. I also conduct secondary analysis of findings. So as my teams are doing primary and secondary research, looking at what they're finding, testing some of the insights that they're bringing, again, to make sure that we're giving our clients the best advice that we can. I lead client meetings and presentations. So communication is a key skill. Being able to talk about complex ideas in a way that makes sense and is digestible to the client is really important. I also engage with potential clients. So sometimes we'll get emails through our website to say, hey, I really don't know how to evaluate the impact of my research program. Can you help me understand what that might look like? So I meet with those clients. We get to know a little bit more about their problem. I might suggest a proposed approach and ultimately write a proposal for their consideration if they want to move forward with us. Part and parcel with that is then also contributing to our business development strategy. So as a firm, what are the types of clients we want to serve? How do we want to serve them? How can we reach out to them so that they know we exist and they know that we can help them, is all part of this work as well. Moving into more of that people skills development, part of my job is identifying training needs for the team. So that's being very close to my junior team members, understanding their day-to-day, understanding where they're having challenges, and being able to create or identify opportunities for them to train to build their skills. And then, of course, part of it is also designing the materials if I'm going to be leading some of those training sessions myself. Performance coaching is also part of the job that I do. So I do have formal coachees that are that I have to manage their performance of. And so a lot of that is helping them set goals for the year, checking in on how they're progressing. And then, of course, informally for any of my team members, I always say my calendar is open and we can have a chat about their development anytime. Finally, I also engage in community connection activities. So doing some talks like this to engage with people who might be interested in this career, but also engaging with my peers. So I'm part of the Black North Initiative. Really, the goal here in the peer-to-peer networks is to engage with other companies, really trying to think about EDI, thinking about how our own processes and policies at Shift Health can evolve so that we can best meet the needs of a diversity of people who we want to be working with us. So some highlights, opportunities, and challenges. Why my role is important. I think ultimately what we do is we help our clients solve complex problems, whatever that problem might be. A lot of my work these days is about creating strategic plans for organizations or setting a strategic direction so that they have purpose and passion moving forward to guide their work. And I also get to mentor the next generation of talent. So I've always really enjoyed teaching and helping people grow. And so this is one of those roles where I get to do both of those things every day. Why I enjoy my role. So as I mentioned, no 2 days are the same, no 2 clients are the same, and no 2 projects are the same. You're always learning something new, whether that's content and subject matter expertise or just learning a new type of client and how they engage in their ecosystem and trying to figure out the best way to support them. Some challenges with this role. This is professional services. So this particular career is very demanding. I'm always striving to deliver the best for my team, for my clients, pushing my teams to deliver the best for their clients. So of course, when you're starting to think about work-life balance, it can be a challenge, but it's not impossible to achieve. In terms of future career trajectory, you could become a career consultant. So as I mentioned on the previous slide, I could move up and continue on to become a partner eventually or a principal and have my own portfolio of clients that I oversee. The other option is you could transition out of management consulting. At this point, I could be looking at mid-senior roles in either public sector or industry and just applying my knowledge more intentionally into like one specific area rather than having a more diverse expertise. So some advice for all of you joining us today. I hope what you've seen from my timeline is consulting is a career you can, and I think you should, if you're interested, explore during your graduate career. It is a demanding career, so giving yourself some opportunity to dabble in what it looks like, see if you really like it, I think it'd be really important for you to consider, and a miss if you don't try to engage in some of these things before embarking on the career. There are lots of prep organizations at the universities that you can engage in. As I mentioned, the GMCA was, at least for me, and I know I'm an alumni, but a critical sort of conduit to helping me network with people in management consulting, really helping me with case competitions, and participating in those types of things to get prepared. And then there's also the volunteer consulting group, which I think may or may not have had a name change. But the idea here is really, if you have an opportunity to engage in some kind of consulting project, it'll be really helpful to you as you're starting to move into consulting and help distinguish you from some of your peers who might be applying. And finally, similar to what Ahmed said, network. Go to those hosted events, talk to people, have coffee chats. People reach out to me on LinkedIn, and to the best of my ability, I always try to offer a coffee chat when I can. So reaching out to people generally want to share their experiences and their ideas with you. So all of that networking is important. And so that's it for my presentation. Thank you all for listening, and happy for you to reach out to me via LinkedIn anytime.
Fantastic. Thank you both the speakers today on behalf of Stem Cell Network and Medicine by Design for taking the time here and delivering fantastic talks.